So now I'm going to load in my USGS 24K layer and my states layer. So I'm going to do that, of course, by adding data. And I have my H drive connected, but I'm going to go ahead and connect to my particular folder. So it's like a shortcut. So I'm going to choose H, my GeoCraft and Lab 4. Okay. So now I have this directly as a shortcut in my ARC catalog. And I'm going to add in states and USGS. And those both are in NAT83. So if I go here and look and hit properties and look at the source, I can see that my source data is already in NAT83, and my viewing data is also in NAT83. And then of course we're going to want to do our calculations that we've learned how to do in the previous weeks, but it's mostly through the attribute tables and using the field calculator tools. So we want to add two fields to our NAT83, and also we're going to want to use the calculator tool to calculate the centroid values for each of the quads. So if I go to my quads, USGS 24, and I open up the attribute table, I can see here that it has the attribute information, and I'm just going to go ahead and add a field, and I'm going to choose double, and this one I'm going to call X NAT83, and there you go, it's in there. And then I'm going to say another add field, and this time I'm going to call it Y NAT83, but of course choose double again. And of course, if you want to learn about these different numbers, you should look up what these numbers are, what they mean. They're basically just programming terms for different types of numbers the computer can understand. So okay, and then we have the Y NAT83 field. So now we're going to use the geometry calculator to compute the X and Y centroid values, which if we remember field calculator, where it was geometry calculator is in the same place. So if I just go here, right click on the field, I can choose calculate geometry, and it's going to give me this warning about not being an edit session, and that's okay. Okay, so we're not going to worry about this edit session, so we're just going to hit yes to continue. So we see here that we can compute different property values. We're going to choose x coordinates, centroid for each of them, and decimal degrees, and that's perfect. So then this is for the x, yep, so we're going to hit OK, and that calculation now is going to go through and populate this field. And this lab's kind of going on the line of what we've been learning about centroids. We'll see that, you know, this is kind of how people find centroids, and like for the city limits, for example, Austin city limits, they may want to find the centroid of Austin, and they will use a calculation like this, where it's going to use the perimeter of the city to make a centroid out of it. And this is why last time in Lab 3 we were seeing differences between USGS and census, because maybe they calculate their centroids based on either different boundaries or on different ideas, either like we learned last week, cultural, maybe cultural significant centers, like maybe Austin might use City Hall or the Capitol, or even UT or something like that, or is it going to be the geometric center of the city limits, and then of course what method they're using to calculate the centroids. So right now we're using the ArcGIS's method of calculating centroids. In order to get into other kinds of versions of centroid calculations for ArcMap, we would have to use scripting, and so some of those things you can find on something like arcscripts.com, which is an Esri website where people put scripts up there, and with those scripts you can use different methods like bounding box, but now we're going to be using the method that ArcGIS uses. And so now our X's come in, and you can see them all have populated into this field. And now we can do the exact same procedure with Y by right clicking and say calculate geometry, and of course say OK. And then here we can choose the Y coordinate of the centroid and have that in decimal degrees. Oof, just realized that this calculation is going to take a while, so I'm going to go ahead and pause this video. But you know, it's calculating uh, 53,911 different quads, centers, which is going to take time. So just be ready to wait for about 5 minutes or so. So finally, our results. Just to let you know, this took me about 15 minutes on my computer for this to come in. If after the little status bar goes away, allow it to continue thinking as it populates the field. It doesn't mean the computer's frozen. It just means that it's populating the field, and once it's populated, you'll have your center points for the quads. So that's how we use the geometry calculation tools. Remember that we used add field, and that was able to let us add our fields in. We chose doubles, and then after we right clicked and we did calculate geometry, and with this tool we were able to look at choose x coordinates of the centroid or y coordinates of the centroid and our units. So now this is all looking good, and in the next steps we're going to continue after the same procedure but in NAD 27 after we do the projection transformation.